we have go through create, insert, and drop statement. So right now, as we look at the CRUD lifecycle, the create, read, update, and delete part, we already completed the create and the delete steps. Specifically in the create stage, we are going to use the create statement to define the table, to define what the columns the table has, what the properties the table has, and then we will use the insert statement to put the data inside into that table. And once you have the data set ready, the table ready, naturally the next step is to read it. And the SQL uses the select statement to achieve this goal. The select statement has two parts. The first part starts with the keyword select followed by column names. And these column names are separated separated with each other by a comma. This part tells DBMS what column you want to see. The second part is a from clause. It starts with the keyword from followed by the table name. Thus, you will know, DBMS will know from which table you want to read data, and inside this table, which columns you want to see. When you write the column list, there's no need to be in the same order as the create statement defined. Whatever you write, select will simply show up. Those columns will show up in the order as you define in the select statement. For example, here, we don't need to know what's the definition of student table. It doesn't matter whether the student name column is defined before city or after city in the create statement. As long as I write select city and student name, select statement will return city first, student name second. And there are more columns inside this student table, but since I'm not selecting them, I'm not put the column name in the select statement, I'm not going to see them. So let's say we also have a state or zip code in the same student table. We will, as long as I only write the city and student name, you're only going to see city and student name. You're not going to see any state or zip code here. You can also use an asterisk or a star to represent all columns in the table in the same order, default order as defined in the table create statement. For example, if I run the select star from instructor, what I'm going to get is instructor name first, followed by instructor affiliation, which is what defined in the create statement. Now, a common misunderstanding is students may think column names and asterisks are not compatible to each other. You cannot write the both in the same select statement, which is wrong. You can have asterisk and the column name in the same select clause. So the catch is that you need to put a comma in between. So you can write like select instructor name, comma, star from instructor or asterisk from instructor. What you will get is one instructor name column followed by the two columns in instructor table, which is instructor name and instructor affiliation. So what you are going to get are two instructor name columns with one instructor affiliation table column. So you may wonder why you would like to do that. And usually the reason is because in real world, usually tables are pretty wide. You may have like 20, 30, 50 columns in table. So in that case, sometimes you want to see some columns first, like ID or name, before you see all the other columns. But you're not sure where your desired column is. So you will just write the column name you want, then with a star. Then you can see all the values with whatever you specifically need. You can also perform certain calculations in select statement. For example, you can do a select quantity times price from sales. Of course, this gives you the sales amount, right? But once you have the sales amount, how do you let people know this is sales amount, right? You can write a select calculation, but how would you define this calculation's result? How do you let people know, let whoever read the SQL know that that's what is the purpose of this calculation? You can use a column alias followed by the column definition or the calculation in the select statement by selecting column computation or maybe it's just one column as a alias. For example, you can select quantity times price as total sales from sales. So after you finish running this, for this particular column, for this particular calculation, you will see a total sales as the name. And then you will use where clause to identify a subset of data, which means a certain condition. You will use a where clause followed by the from clause. And where clause will contain a Boolean expression. Every row that meets this expression will be filtered into the result set. For example, if I do a select star from instructor, this statement alone gives me all the data, all the rows, all the columns in the table. Once I add a where clause, I'm only going to get rows where instructor affiliation equals to Jedi. So this will give me all the light side of force instead of everybody associated with the Sith, which is the dark side of force. Now, this can be a little bit confusing. So let me go to a different aspect first. So to help you further understand how this where clause is operated. So when you run a select statement, DBMS, what does the DBMS do? DBMS will go through each row in the table and perform the operation you want it to perform, which is select certain columns. Now, I have a select, this is a test from instructor, this SQL. What is the result of the following statement, this query? Now, the answer actually is, you will get, this is a test as many times as the number of rows in instructor. Let's say I have 4 rows in instructor. Then you will get, this is a test, 4 rows. You will get 4 rows in the data returned. Each row contains, this is a test. Why? Because for this select operation, DBMS goes through each row. For each row, it performs a select, this is test. So for row 1, it selects this is test. For row 2, it does the select again, creating another row. For row 3, it does the select again, creating another row. And for row 4, all the way until the end of the table, for each row, DBMS will perform one select. Will perform this. This is the test once. So in the end, if you have n rows in the table, you will get n rows of this is a test as a result. But how would this help us understand where clause? Because when you run the SQL, when DBMS runs this SQL, it will go through each row and apply SQL actions. First, as applying the where clause. If the condition in the where clause if the row satisfy the condition in the where clause, then DBMS will pick up this row and perform the following SQL actions, such as select. So if you have a row that meets the condition, select will be performed. If this row does not meet the where clause, DBMS will not perform the select. So let's get one step further. Let's say we have two roles, right? One is a Jedi and Obi-Wan Kenobi, apparently. And one is a Sith, which is a Darth Sidious. When you run a select from instructor, where instructor affiliation equals to Jedi, what's going to happen is DBMS will first pick the first role, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and apply the where clause. Now here, the instructor affiliation is Jedi. So this role meets the select condition. So we will perform a select star for that role, giving us Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jedi. For the second role, we have a Darth Sidious and Sith. When DBMS apply this role to the where clause, the instructor affiliation is Sith does not equal to Jedi. And this role hence does not meet the where clause condition. So DBMS will not perform the following select. So for this particular two-row data set, we only perform the one select once. We perform the where clause checking twice for two rows, but we only perform select once for the row that meets the condition. The result will just be Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi, and will not have anything with the Darth Sidious. In general, in more general, we were just going through select and the where. But in a more general sense, DBMS will go through each row and test if the row meets the filtering condition, which is the where clause. If yes, then DBMS will apply SQL action to the row, such as select. We will see more example in the future. But basically, rows in table, this is how DBMS performs this execution. And the upper side of it is that because rows in table does not have a particular order, by mathematical definition, a relation is a set. Elements in set tuples in set does not have an order. So the good thing about it is then we can randomly break the set into multiple smaller sets, and the execution can happen to any row and any time without the consideration to order. This means I can break a data set into smaller pieces and distribute it. Distribute this into multiple machines. Each machine perform their own execution. This is ideal for distributed processing. And then, but what if I just want to see one row for each particular instance? Then you will use a select distinct. Select distinct course name, instructor name from course. This will give you a distinct list of course name and instructor name. So distinct is a keyword, remember. So do not put the parentheses or quotes. I see both show up in students' homework. So you will have a select keyword, distinct keyword with the column list, followed by the from clause, and you can also have a where clause. And this will give you a distinct value of each value. For example, this is a test. If I use a select distinct, this is test from certain table, then I will only get this is a test once. And so much is for selecting. But as we just said, the rows in the data set is not ordered. Execution can start at any row. So the result set returned to you can have a select statement, can have the select result of any row in any order. If you have been seeing sorted results so far, that's a coincidence. If you want the data to be sorted, you will need to specifically use the order by clause to specify the data order, the order of the return data. For example, if I want to select distinct instructor name, I need to specify order by instructor name. This is the keyword followed by the from clause and the where clause. Order by must come after where clause. Order by certain column. oops, press what button did I press? Okay, and you can also define the order of the order by. If it's an ascending, you add ASC after the column name. If you want to sort it by descending, like if I have the top cells, number 1 cells, of course you want the largest first, then it will be descending. You will add DESC after the column name. You can also have, okay, you can also have, excuse me. You can also have multiple columns, and the order of columns determine sorting priority, right? Order by clause is always at the end of select statement. You can use any column in the data set in the table. The column you used for sorting does not necessarily need to be in the select clause. So here I'm selecting instructor name from clause, order by instructor name. You can also have a select instructor name from course, ordered by course name. You don't need to select course in order to sort the instructor name. Or you can sort it by instructor name first, followed by course name. And each column can have its own sorting order. And you can also, to simplify the order course, you can also use the position of columns instead of using the column name. So prior to this, we use a order by instructor name ascending and course name descending. But since I'm selecting instructor name and course name too, I can use the order, the position of a column in the select clause. Instructor name is the first column I select, so I can do an order by 1 ascending. Then course name is a second order column in the select statement, in the select clause. Then I can use a 2 descending. And if I want to sort course name first, I can also select the instructor name of course name, ordered by 2 descending, followed by 1 ascending. So all these are possible combinations, right? So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to run some SQLs. We will run multiple statements, which I'm going to show you the highlighting and the semicolon, the usage of the semicolon. I'm also going to show you the keywords, the SQL statements. And when I show you the SQL statements, remember keyword and table column names are not case sensitive. Whether line breaks and extra space are ignored, but still try to form a convention, like using uppercase for keywords or proper indentation.